How will Fogo Chain make it? This is the most in-depth guide to show you all the pros and cons, the strengths and weaknesses, the product market fit of this blockchain. And what we're going to do is called a SWOT. It has nothing to do with this movie, SWOT. Instead, it is an SWOT. So a SWOT analysis, this goes over the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of a project that you work out, and then you can see how it's going to fit in and how you can ideally create massive demand and compete with the competitors and overtake the competitors. So Dan has gone and done this brilliant SWOT analysis, and we're going to go through it. This is extremely important as a video, so I do want you to go through. This is opinion and research. There's no inside information from the team or anything like that, and there'll be stuff that we just don't know, but it does point out where we're good as a community, where the team's good, etc., and where we could be better. So let's dive in. Let's start off with the strengths. We've already covered the core contributors, and that video will be linked above. Go and check it out. Core contributors are very, very strong. You've got trading, peth team, you've got ambient finance, you've got people that know how to make things work and know to compete anywhere near the level of the NASDAQ. It's extraordinarily important that you're actually pushing the right things that you can control. And that's why it's a very novel approach to get the block time down very, very low. Currently in testnet, it's 50 milliseconds. They do want it to be 20, but even 50 is the fastest, the absolute fastest. And in the previous cycle, people talk about 1 million transactions per second or 10 million. There's blockchains out there right now. But if you still have that 400 millisecond block time, then you cannot compete with a legacy system. Let's move on to the next thing, SVM compatibility. SVM compatibility, Solana virtual machine. This is so important to Solana's. More than just height, it has a fundamental group of a community. I am very, very bullish on Solana myself. But aside from that, you can take a program, a dApp that has already been deployed on Solana, and with very few minor changes, you can deploy it on Fogo Chain. As an example, you could have Meteoro, you could have Camino, you could have MarginFi. All of these programs, all these dApps could be moved across with minimal effort. The next point is a curated validator set. This is very important. I run a validator, validator.com, and we run very, very good hardware, but there are some validators that are not there. And this is probably going to be more true on other blockchains as well. And I've spoken to other blockchains about this. So with Fogo Chain, you need people that can spend the money on the hardware to make them very, very fast, to spend money to use 00, to get even faster connections and get rid of spam, to be in the right data centers so that you can compete with the NASDAQ level. And that is actually a strength. But strength is just one part. Let's move on to the next one. Weaknesses. New chain faces a cold start problem. If you've already been running and gaining users, fantastic. This is a cold start problem. There are, I don't know how many, but 10 plus Solana SVM models out there. Now, Fogo is going for the hyperliquid of them. So it's not really the same comparison. But the point is, Solana is so good in so many ways, and hyperliquid is so good in so many ways that you are starting from scratch. In a sense. The next thing is hyperliquid has the first mover's advantage, has the first on-chain perps DEX that is competitive to Binance and Bybit. They are pulling a massive amount of that market share. But of course, there are opportunities. Decentralization with strategic validator set, curated and large validator set that competes with their stake. Hyperliquid has this now with 21 validators. But the first part, which operated for quite a few months actually, was actually just Hyperliquid with their own validators. Now, other validators can come in. If they attract enough stake, they can be competitive. They only have 21 though at present. The other major opportunity is attracting capital. So being able to bridge across the EVM world, the SVM, SUI, this broadens reach. This is one reason why Solana gets a lot of activity happening, because it's easy to move money from other blockchains. And wormhole integration, that is very, very key. The other thing is launching with a stablecoin straight away, that improves capital efficiency and trust. You want that stablecoin. Stablecoins make markets just so much better. This next opportunity, benchmark targeting. Nothing's financial advice. Nothing is inside information. This is just opinion and research. But publicly aiming to capture a share of a SEX, like Binance, their volume, it sets a bold narrative and establishes credibility. So this is a very lofty example, but e.g. 25% of Binance volume by end of 2026. Now, Robert has been very, very clear in how he approaches things on Twitter. He doesn't want things like IBRL. He wants specific targets, right? We want our blockchain to be this fast. It's like if you go to the gym, you don't say, I'm going to get fitter. That is so broad that it's not measurable. If you go and say, I want to be able to do 15 chin-ups within 3 months, or be able to run a kilometer in 3.5 minutes, or a mile in 5 minutes, something like that, it's measurable and you can achieve that. So we want benchmarks that we can actually strive for. The next thing is innovative tokenomics. This is another key opportunity. No one has perfect tokenomics. Thus far, the start of the tokenomics with Fogo Chain is the best I've ever seen. Community-led via echo.xyz. This has actually been so key and pivotal because there's more money in the communities here than there are with VCs thus far, which is absolutely incredible. But you want a staking mechanism, revenue sharing staking model, trading fee reduction. You go and stake your tokens, you get more tokens. You trade on it, you pay less fees. Buybacks. Some people in crypto do not like buybacks. Sometimes they don't work terribly well. There needs to be some way that you do it in a better way. As an example, maybe the buyback is not, and I'm just speculating here, maybe your buyback is done in a way where you don't just buy back a dollar cost average across a week, but you buy at key levels when things dip down. That way you're using your capital more wisely. Like Apple has too much money, they'd buy back their stock. MicroStrategy had too much cash, they bought back their stock. So many companies are like this. This creates this kind of flywheel and the reason to potentially own that stock or token. Now, next thing is a percentage of protocol fees. They go to an assistance fund to protect users, some kind of insurance program. Next, we've got FLP, so Fogo Liquidity Pool. You've got this with HLP, you've got it with JLP with Jupiter on Solana. But tokenized version of assets locked on the exchange, people lock relevant assets on chain, they get FLP tokens in exchange, and they generate yield on different vaults. So you can put your assets in there. If you're not a trader yet, you put them in there, you let them earn revenue and grow and value. We also have protocol-owned vaults, mimicking centralized exchange style revenue, market making and liquidation. These things do exist with Hyperliquid, but there's so much more room for improvement here. Now, the next one's obvious, but an airdrop, some sort of airdrop to the community. How does that get used so that it actually gets the community bullish and bringing more friends in? That's what Hyperliquid managed to do. And the key point is you want to reward traders. You want to reward the people there. You want to be very, very careful to watch out for massive airdrop bot farms that go and they just try to max extract. The next thing, superior UX, intuitive interface, gasless transactions. I would also add in here having good tutorial videos, which is what we're going to take care of. Something so that the user experience is easy and more feedback comes from the users and it improves and improves. Also, your product roadmap. Perpetual and spot DEX, permissionless listing of new assets and tickets. However that's worked out, with safety checks in mind so that we don't have a situation with Jelly that which Hyperliquid had a few months ago, but some systems so that things can improve the asset base. More and more assets can go into that system. The next thing is funding. Sell up to 6.5% after mainnet is live. Now, this is important because There are blockchains out there, Scroll, Blast. There's quite a few actually. I could go through them, which had a huge amount of hype and attention as people moved their funds in there. And then once the token generation event was done, people sold and the TVL and everything just left. Got to create that stickiness nature, and you want people to stay there, and you want people to onboard more people to that blockchain. That is what the opportunity is. And finally, the threats. There's so many L1s and L2s. There's too many. It's just like another one, and SVM as well. There's too many. This is just something to keep in mind. There is this threat. There's also a huge amount of regulatory pressure, potentially. Hyperliquid, they haven't faced this. Binance and Bybit, the centralized ones, they have. So what's going to unfold in the future? And the last point here is airdrop farming, inflated TVL. Like I said with Scroll, and like I said with Blast and many other blockchains, you get these metrics where you think you're doing so well. And then if you cannot create that stickiness, it's all over. So that's the SWOT. We've got everything that we need to know on how we can make Fogo a success. And we can redo SWOTs as we learn more about what exactly are the strengths and the weaknesses and the opportunities and the threats. But for now, I think the community's got enough information to let the core contributors cook and get that feedback loop going to make this a successful thing. What are your thoughts? Anything we missed? Let us know. Catch you in the next video. Until then, be Fogo fast.